Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I sure am. I am lucky enough that I get to visit home for an entire week. I get a break off of my busy schedule and I get to be home with my family. So it's just super exciting. I'm happy to be doing these episodes while I'm in my hometown and the comfort of my own bed. But let's just jump right into it. I have a really cool story about some bikers, a very unlikely source, biker gangs. They have been giving emotional support and protection for hundreds of abused children around the world. They're giving courage, emotional support just to kids that are escaping child abuse. So they're called Bikers Against Child Abuse, BACA. It's an international non-profit organization that basically recruits volunteer bikers as a support system for kids suffering from parental abuse. So the bikers go to great lengths just to make the child feel comfortable and safe in their presence. They actually gift the child their very own BACA vest. It's pretty cool what they do, this organization. If the child has a bad dream in the middle of the night, their gang of leather-clad protectors is what they call them, will stop by for a visit, literally in the middle of the night. If the family is afraid of their abuser visiting their home, then the BCAC bikers will stand watch until the danger has passed. Basically, it's like a protection service for these children that need it. If a child is forced to give a testimony of their abuse in court, then the bikers will escort the child all the way to the stand, just give that emotional support and be there for them. Over the course of the last 20 years, this organization has been offering their services pretty much all over the world, from New Zealand and Australia to Canada and the United States. They've kind of been all over. And prior to volunteering their services through BACA, each of the bikers actually undergo an extensive background check and takes on kind of an intervention training for handling extreme emotional situations. None of them are financially reimbursed for their gas money or their time. So they do it completely out of the kindness of their hearts, just because they want to give back. They want to help protect these children. They just want to do some good. So there's no reimbursement. There's no nothing like that. They just do it just to help out. I thought that was a pretty cool story. Definitely a feel-good one. And now my next one I thought was pretty interesting. It's an alternative to detention. I know we've probably all been there where we've had to, stay after school, where you basically have to sit there and do nothing. Kind of depends on your school, right? But if you get a detention in school, it's basically sitting there and looking at a blank wall or doing your homework or whatever it is. Well, some high schools have come up, middle schools and high schools have come up with a more kind of unique idea. It's an alternative to the classic detention. And I think it's definitely more beneficial to the students. So Yellow Springs High, along with nearby McKinney Middle School, have decided, instead of doing the classic detention, they are going to be practicing mindfulness instead. So they're going to be practicing mindfulness, there's yoga, there's all those kind of different things, and it's actually led by an expert. So every single Monday for 30 minutes after class, students can sit down on a blanket, in this like second floor classroom and basically allow themselves a quiet moment to calm their emotions, focus on their stillness, being present, increasing their awareness of themselves and their school environment and anything that's going on. So collectively, all these emotions kind of reset sessions, they sit right there and they are just able to kind of collect themselves and deal with all their emotions, deal with anything going on in the school in this like safe environment with an expert there. So this is really just encouraging schools and teachers to offer mindfulness training to students. There's like this plan, Ohio statewide, and it's all of the education system. They're calling it Each Child, Our Future. And it's Ohio's new plan to offer resources to create well-rounded and capable young people and perhaps also address the mental health epidemic in the United States. So this is one of their ways of kind of tackling that. Social emotional learning is one of the 3 fundamentals in this program. So they're hoping to create processes through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply knowledge, attitudes, and skill necessary to understand and manage their emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So that's just kind of like one part of it, of what they're kind of going after. But along with the mindfulness classes every single Monday, Yellow Springs High is offering the yoga classes in the school library every Wednesday as well. It's definitely a pretty cool program. I wish I had the option to do mindfulness or yoga instead of a detention. I think it's way more beneficial for a lot of people. So Donna Haller, she's been at the high school for the past 9 years, and she's a certified yoga and meditation instructor for both adults and youth of all ages. So she's been one of the experts helping out with this program at Yellow Springs. But Yellow Springs, Ohio is not the only town to feature the meditation, mindfulness classes, or yoga as a potential game changer for the students. Back in 2017, there was a survey from the National Institute of Health, and it found that 1 in 12 children reported that they practiced yoga during the previous 12 months. So between 2002 and 2012, the number of children and adults practicing yoga doubled in the country, which is pretty crazy. Between 2012 and 2017, the number continued to increase. And now Yellow Springs News reports that yoga classes are now being offered in more than 940 schools across the country. I think this is such a cool thing to put in a school, honestly. Like, we all need sometimes just a little bit of a chill moment where you can just zen out, stretch it out, just relax. And so I think this is definitely a cool option. They've had a lot of positive research about the meditation and mindfulness training. It's pretty compelling to a lot of different people. The benefits, it's easy to achieve, it's effective, it's long-lasting. The studies have also demonstrated that yoga, particularly in students, can help improve responses to stress, process past events that may have been difficult, enhance social engagement, and possibly even improve academic performance. So there's so many amazing benefits to this. The San Francisco Unified School District has, as well as some other schools across the country, are implementing the Quiet Time program. I think this is pretty cool. It actually was started by Twin Peaks and Fight Club director David Lynch. So Quiet Time consists of 2 15-minute sessions of basically kind of like trance meditation, where you just kind of like, there's so many different kinds of meditation. So it's like a transcendental meditation where students are encouraged to just breathe really, really deeply, clear their minds, and find their center, just kind of realign with everything. So according to the David Lynch Foundation for Consciousness-Based Education and World Peace website, the Quiet Time Meditation Program has shown a 65% decrease in violent conflict, a 40% reduction in stress and anxiety, and an 86% reduction in suspensions over a 2-year period, along with a dramatic increase of self-confidence, creativity, and happiness, which all three very important things. So this meditation is kind of different in the principle to mindfulness training and yoga, but the result for most people tends to be pretty similar. You know, it's just the calmness of your heart and your mind. You're reducing your stress, anger, and anxiety. And they actually have been saying that there's better attendance records as well, because they're able to find this like place to relax and to connect again and just feel at peace while you're in school, because we all know school can be stressful and there's lots going on. So they're really starting to implement these things in a bunch of different school districts, and they're already seeing amazing positive results. So it'll be cool to see where else this takes off. But as of right now, it is time for a little bit of a break. Don't go anywhere. I have some pretty cool stories to share with you today. They're gonna, put a smile on your face, make you feel good inside, and I can't wait to share them with you. So stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. So my next story is about Kirk Douglas. If you are a Spartacus fan, then you would know exactly who Kirk Douglas is. The golden age of Hollywood legend, they call him Kirk Douglas. He has had an amazing history of giving back to charity. He's always been a giving person for that. And he did pass away this February 5th, but that has not stopped him from donating to charity. It was just announced that his $61 million fortune is all going to charity. Pretty insane. So his son, Michael, which I'm sure you know of Michael as well, Michael did not receive any of his father's fortune, and he says this on social media. It said, "It is with tremendous sadness that my brothers and I announce that Kirk Douglas left us today at the age of 103. To the world, he was a humanitarian whose commitment to justice and the causes he believed in set a standard for all of us to aspire to." And then it kind of goes on for a little bit, and he says, "Let me end with the words I told him on his last birthday, and which will always remain true. Dad, I love you so much, and I am so proud to be your son." No kidding. $61 million fortune, all to charity. Some of them included the St. Lawrence University to help fund the Kirk Douglas Scholarship for underprivileged children, students basically who grew up in poverty like Kirk did himself back during the Great Depression of the 1920s and 30s. So there was a bunch of money that went to St. Lawrence University, which is pretty incredible. It also went to Westwood Sinai Temple, Culver City Kirk Douglas Theater, and Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, which has also previously received large donations from the amazing actor Kirk before, including a $2.3 million to purchase new equipment for the Patriotics division. So he's already given back so much even to these donations. But yeah, his $61 million fortune. He's also made a significant difference in the lives of aging entertainers like himself. Except those who need assistance in their golden years, he says. In 2015, on his 99th birthday, he gave $15 million to build the Kirk Douglas Care Pavilion to help care for up to 80 Alzheimer's patients from the entertainment industry. So he has done some amazing things in his life. At 103 years old, it is sad that he has passed away, but his legend will live on. He has been donating to these charities his entire life, and now the rest of his fortune is going to all of these charities that he's always cared about. So I think that is definitely pretty cool. My next story for you is about a tortoise. This one hits close to home. I actually have a pet tortoise. Her name is Roxy. And so when I stumbled upon this story about some tortoises, I just had to share it with you. So last year, in the recently expanded Galapagos Islands National Park, scientists made a monumental discovery, they say, when they found a solitary female tortoise on one of the islands, where tortoises were thought to be extinct for over 100 years. So because of the location, the animal was presumed to belong to the extinct species only found on that island. It's a Fernandina giant tortoise named for the Fernandina Island. It's one of the youngest and most volcanically active in the famous Galapagos area. So this tortoise is believed to be over 100 years old. It was immediately transferred to the Giant Tortoise Breeding Center on Santa Cruz Island, and plans were made for a return to Fernandina to try and track down a mate. So in the meantime, though, blood samples were sent to Yale University to determine whether or not she is indeed a member of the extinct species. So just 2 months ago, back in December, a team of 10 scientists and park rangers decided to venture out to the island, and they did find evidence that confirmed the presence of at least one more turtle on the island. They're on a hunt for these tortoises. They say the trail suggests that there is still at least one tortoise on the island, but the dense vegetation, especially ferns, made it impossible to locate. A follow-up of the expedition happened on January 24th. Well, it almost happened on January 24th. It was failed when the Fernandina's resident volcano, La Cumbre, actually began to erupt. So it made it absolutely impossible for them to go tortoise hunting in these conditions. But just recently, the Galapagos Conservancy, GNN, learned that the blood test results from Yale University have not been completed yet. So the Virginia-based controversy is one of the primary organizations involved in the Fernandina Tortoise Project. So they're still hoping to find a second tortoise to help them confirm the exact species of the female that they found in 2019 in December. They say right now there's only one extant sample in the world, and that's a taxidermy male tortoise collected in 1906. So they wanted to make it very clear that just because this tortoise was found on the island where the resident species of the Fernandina lived doesn't automatically make her one of them. So sailors back from the 1950s and even the 1960s were often moving tortoises around, so they're just not completely sure exactly if this tortoise came from there. The last time one of these tortoises had been seen in the Galapagos was 112 years ago. It was a male, and there is no record of ever seeing a female. So a positive identification from the Yale biologist would turn out to be a very big wow indeed. It would be a huge step. So I guess stay tuned for what's going to happen with that. I hope within a little time here we'll find out if this turtle is one of the Fernandinas. But I had to tell the story about the tortoise because it hits close to home. Just like I said, I have a tortoise myself. Okay, my next story, this reminds me of another story that I have shared with you before. If you remember the story about the brewery that was putting pictures of dogs' faces on beer cans in hopes to get them adopted. Well, now a New York pizza place has done the same. Not beer cans, though, of course. On their pizza boxes, they have put pictures of adoptable dogs to help them get adopted. So, Just Pizza and Wing Corporation, it's a franchise in Amherst, New York, and they have started to put pictures of adoptable dogs on their pizza boxes, and anyone who adopts a dog will receive a $50 gift card to the pizza shop as well. But the story behind this I thought was pretty cool. It came after Maria Loy. She owns the pizza franchise with 3 of her children. She began volunteering at the Niagara Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the SPCA. She worked with Kimberly LaRessa, an SPCA event coordinator, to come up with ways to help more shelter animals find their forever homes. So she says, Kimberly texted me one night and was like, hey, what would you think about putting pictures of the dogs on pizza boxes? And she said, I just couldn't wait. We're all animal lovers here, so I got permission from the franchise to do it, and immediately we got to work. Just really quick after that, customers of the pizza shop began to receive orders with photos of sweet pups that were adoptable. And so they kind of put all the information that they could on the boxes, and the results from it say people are absolutely loving it. Just after a single day of putting the flyers on the pizzas, a 6-month-old puppy named Larry was adopted. So it's quickly working. She says, we've had a tremendous amount of interest and support from the community and beyond. Since the story went viral just on last Friday, they've already had so many. The shop is getting a lot more business, according to Mary as well. While the restaurant usually uses about 600 to 800 boxes every week, it has already gone through 500 boxes since just Friday. So really quickly, it's all kind of coming together. But Mary has a kind of a cool history of giving back. Her generosity goes beyond her passion just for helping these animals. She's constantly trying to find ways to give back to her community. She has involvement with the hospice care, a nonprofit, medical organizations. She's done so many things with children's hospitals, animal shelters throughout Buffalo. She's really always tries to do kind of her best to give back. She says, I try to do whatever I can for other organizations who need help. We have donation boxes all over the store. Anything I can do to help the community, I'm going to do it. She says she's always wanted to be a volunteer for the SPCA. Just as a small business owner, she doesn't have time to do it herself. But instead, she brings food to events and offers, help whenever she can. So she was just super excited to be doing this. It's just another thing that she wants to do to give back to the community. She says, while both the pizzeria and shelter have already been flooded with calls and comments about all these adopted animals, she says that she does not plan on stopping anytime soon. I guess customers at the pizza shop can start to expect their orders to come with flyers of adoptable cats as well. So they're already kind of expanding it. The shop will continue their effort for as long as it takes to get every animal in this shelter adopted. And this idea is spreading really quickly. Other pizza shops, there's different Italian ones, kitchen ones in Ohio, and kind of all over are kind of getting the glimpse of this idea and starting to put adoptable animals on their pizza boxes. Like I said, there was those beer cans that had them. I think it's such a unique way to get, those animals adopted. Who doesn't want to receive a pizza with a cute picture of a dog that you could possibly adopt too? I think there's no harm in that at all. You get pizza and a cute puppy, maybe. All right, it's time for another break, but don't go anywhere. I have lots more to share with you.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So let's jump right back into some more feel-good stories for you. I have a pretty cool one. It's about an 8th grade student, and he actually managed to convince a team of legislators to participate in a day-long lesson, which basically they will always remember for the rest of their life, is what they're saying. So the 8th grader, his name is Alex Johnson. He's about 14 years old, and he's pretty incredible. So he has been using a wheelchair since he was in 2nd grade due to a form of skeletal dysplasia. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a condition which affects the growth of his bones and cartilage. So he's always kind of been in a wheelchair for a very, very long time. He is from Tennessee. So he's been using a wheelchair for majority of his life so far, and he's decided to ask some people of a simple challenge to his peers and his classmates, and that challenge was to spend a day in a wheelchair, just so they can understand what it would be like to be disabled. At 14 years old, he kind of has come up with this idea to challenge people, just to, really put them in his own shoes, which I think is pretty interesting. So he just wants people to understand kind of what it would be like, to be in a wheelchair for your life. And so just for one day, he decided to do this. So he got dozens of students to participate. He's calling it Spend a Day in My Wheels Challenge. And he recently actually got 10 state lawmakers from across the aisle to participate in the challenge as well. So he decided to also, get these kind of lawmakers to agree with it because he wanted to give them, a real idea to understand the difficulties of the disabled so they can pass, more laws for handicap-friendly legislation. So not only did this 14-year-old get people just like his peers, his classmates to do this, he got 10 lawmakers to do this challenge, and what they experienced is pretty incredible. One of them says, the challenge was definitely a really eye-opening experience. Even in a building that is handicap accessible, he says you still bump into doors, you bump into walls. Some of the doors become very heavy for someone in a wheelchair. Opening up a refrigerator door, doors seem to be like the really big challenge. So he was, Alex is really hoping that since this experience of the lawmakers, they will better understand the difficulties of the disabled so they can move more bills for handicap-friendly legislation. Says, our whole community is very supportive of Alex and proud of the effort he's made to create greater understanding about what it's like to live with a disability. He's an amazing young man who has found a way to use his disability as an ability to educate others. And this is just one of the legislators, what they said. And I think, I think at 14 years old, that's so cool to try to get people to really be in your own shoes or be in your own wheels, I guess, to really understand that. I've never actually really been in a wheelchair before, so I would have no idea what that must feel like. But I think it's a genius idea to get the people, that do come up with the laws to experience that firsthand. Pretty incredible, 14-year-old boy. And now I have another incredible story about a 13-year-old boy. His name is Darius Brown. He's from New Jersey, and he's been helping shelter animals across the country just to get adopted. And he's been doing this by handcrafting bow ties. That's pretty cute. So his sister first taught him how to sew so that he could improve his motor skills as just a young kid. But as he became more and more talented with his needlework, his sister suggested that he, had a newfound skill and started to sew bow ties. So that's kind of exactly what he did, and shortly after, he started crafting these really cute little accessories. The bow ties are adorable. So when he really started to get into it, this is when hurricanes Harvey and Irma hit Texas and Florida, and he was heartbroken by the amount of animals who were left without homes after these big storms. So he decided to help the shelter pits find their forever families by making them personalized bow ties. So he's taken his sewing that he learned from his sister with these bow ties, and he decided to help get animals adopted. He figured, if cats and dogs could look extra dapper for potential adopters, that maybe they'd be more likely to find a home. And it turns out he was right. So since he began his, this mission to kind of get all these animals adopted by help of his bow ties, he's actually made about 500 bow ties. And I guess all of these accessories have helped more than 100 dogs and cats find their forever homes. More and more shelters have reached out to Darius about getting their own shipment of ties. And so he actually launched a GoFundMe page back in June of 2019 in order to raise money for more fabric and supplies. But he's been getting, requests to get all of these bow ties sent to these different shelters across the country. He has a crowdfunding page, and this has since raised more than $50,000. It turned in the GoFundMe Hero title for January of 2020. Pretty cool at 13 years old. And these bow ties are so cute. I will definitely post some of them on our social media pages, so go check those out. You're not going to want to miss it. I totally understand why people would want to adopt a dog with one of these bow ties, because they sure are adorable. And I'm going to finish off today's episode with one more story about a young kid. I love these stories about young kids and just what they're doing to help their community and just to help others. But this story is a little bit different. Make-A-Wish has helped this 10-year-old boy become a superhero. He stopped a bank robbery and he rescued someone from a burning building. So his name is Gage Pike. He's from Florida. And, most people want to meet their heroes, but not Gage. He wanted to become a hero. He wanted to specifically become a crime-fighting robot. He has a serious heart condition, and so this is what he asked for Make-A-Wish. He wanted it to turn himself into Robo Gage. So they transformed this 10-year-old boy into Robo Gage and made all of his dreams come true. So Make-A-Wish America said they worked with multiple organizations for almost 3 months. They built a super suit and set up a fake bank robbery, complete with even a bad guy and everything. Robo Gage fired a laser and helped police arrest the robber in a video on the Make-A-Wish Central and Northern Florida Facebook page. It's pretty cool. And then Robo Gage then helped firefighters put out a fire. He got to ride on the fire truck's ladder to rescue an actor from a burning building in another video. So Make-A-Wish says before he couldn't really participate in being a kid. He couldn't run around and play and do anything like that. So this was the best day of his entire life. So as a big grand finale for everything, Gage rescued a man from a simulated building collapse. It was shown also in another video posted by the Orange County Sheriff's Office. So he rescued this person, and then the firefighters held his arms up in victory while a crowd chanted, "Robo Gage, Robo Gage." Basically, all of his dreams are coming true in just, these videos that they did for him. They said that he could have chosen any wish, but what he really wanted to do was just help others. So he received actually multiple awards from grateful citizens for all these things, and just his, interest in, instead of, wanting to meet one of his heroes, he wanted to become a hero. He wanted to do what he can to help somebody else, even if it was some staged events. He wanted to just help others. So he was sworn in as an honorary deputy and firefighter, and Mickey Mouse even came to Disney World to give Gage a special award. So there was a ceremony posted to Make-A-Wish page of Mickey Mouse giving him this special award. And his mom particularly says the praise is very well deserved. He has a huge heart, and he just wanted to help give back to others. Like I said before, I just can't help but love all these stories from all these young kids doing amazing things and going above and beyond just to help others, and having such a pure, kind heart at such a young age. It's so refreshing to hear all these stories. But that is all the stories that I have to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed them. We had a wide range today, from young kids to, giving back, dogs being adopted. Can't go wrong with that. And my particular favorite story of today was the alternative to detention. I absolutely love that it's coming out that people are practicing mindfulness and yoga instead of just, putting these kids in a blank white room wall for, as a punishment. I think the mindfulness is just so much more beneficial. I cannot wait to hear of more school districts coming out with that. Anyways, I'm rambling on. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media. Like I said, I will be posting those pictures of some bow ties of the dogs. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm always updating you guys on new episodes and what's going to be coming out. So check out our social media pages and leave a 5-star review because it means the world to me. I look forward to next time. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast.